All right, let's start with Operation Epic Fury. In less than 3 hours, the U.S. will begin enforcing a naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz after peace talks.
We're learning a second U.S. aircraft carrier is being sent to the Middle East. And here is what we're learning from
6:14 local time, Strait of Hormuz. T-minus 90 seconds until contact. 15 Iranian fast attack boats. Nearly 7,500 American sailors and aviators in the crosshairs. Every second counts. This is the story of 42 minutes that changed everything. Dawn over the Persian Gulf looks almost peaceful from the flight deck. The sea is flat black glass streaked orange by first light. Jet fuel hangs in the air. Catapults sit ready. Yellow shirt directors move with practiced calm beneath the island of a Nimitz-class carrier. Off the carrier's port quarter, 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers slice steady lines through the water. Farther out, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser holds station, its Aegis system sweeping the horizon with machine patience. Above them all, an E-2D Hawkeye circles in wide arcs, its radar dome turning like a silent metronome for war. Imagine you're here. You're a 19-year-old seaman on watch, coffee cooling in your hand, staring across one of the most strategic waterways on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of the world's traded oil moves through this corridor. At its narrowest, the shipping lanes are brutally tight. Geography compresses everything. Commercial tankers, patrol boats, drones, fighters, miscalculation, fear. One bad decision and this place becomes the center of the planet. The strike group is not alone, and it is not exposed. It carries layered defenses built over decades of hard lessons. E-2D airborne early warning, F divided by a -18 E divided by F Super Hornets on alert 5, MH-60 are Seahawks with surface search radar and Hellfire missiles, shipboard electronic warfare suites, Mk-45 5-inch guns, Phalanx CWS, Sea Sparrow, rolling airframe missiles, .50 caliber mounts, and Marines trained for close-in defense. Around 5,000 sailors ride the carrier. Another 2,000 spread across escorts, air wing detachments, and support ships. This is not just a formation. It is a moving fortress. But fortresses invite challengers. Along Iran's southern coast, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy has built its doctrine around asymmetry. They do not plan to defeat a carrier strike group head-on. They plan to overwhelm it, confuse it, saturate it, embarrass it. Fast inshore attack craft, swarm tactics, rocket pods, heavy machine guns, anti-ship missiles on the coastline, mines, drones overhead, pressure from every angle at once. It is a doctrine designed for headlines as much as combat. And in this fictional scenario, that doctrine is about to be tested. At 0613, 15 fast attack craft surge out from the shadow of the Iranian coast near Keshem Island and Larik approaches. Small hulls, low profile, high speed. Some are armed with anti-ship rockets. Others carry recoilless rifles, heavy machine guns, or shoulder-fired missiles. A few are rigged as decoys, meant to force hesitation. Their commanders believe they have found the perfect moment. Early light, crowded sea lanes, a U.S. carrier group operating within a constrained maritime picture. They think proximity is protection. They think political caution will slow the Americans. They think if they close fast enough, if they force a split-second identification problem, they can create chaos on camera and strategic shock far beyond the waterline. From their perspective, this is not suicide. It is theater, a demonstration, a showcase of nerve against superior tonnage. 15 boats against one carrier group. David against Goliath, rewritten for the social media age. Get close, fire, damage and escort. Maybe strike the carrier's outer skin. Even a failed hit, if filmed well enough, could be sold as resistance. Could you see the temptation? One spectacular image, one burning deck vehicle, one panicked radio transmission. That is the fantasy. But there's a problem with their plan. They are thinking in terms of visibility. The Americans are fighting in terms of data. What they didn't account for is that they were being built into a kill chain before their engines reached full throttle. The Hawkeye saw the pattern shift first. Not just contacts, but behavior. 15 small returns accelerating together. Formation
Contrary to
tightening.
false claims of
Vectors
certain enemy
converging.
officials,
Commercial
the Strait of
traffic
Hormuz
doesn't
is
move
open
like
for the
that.
passage of
Fishing
non-military
boats don't
vessels
sprint
under
in
smart
disciplined
control and
lanes.
management
The
in accordance with
E2D
specific
crew flags it.
regulations.
The
Now, as
picture
both
is
sides
pushed
seek
in
an
seconds
off-ramp
through
to the war,
cooperative engagement
talks are
capability
expected to
links to the
continue.
cruiser,
Time and
the
place
destroyers,
TBD,
the
guys.
carrier's
Over the
combat
weekend,
direction
a pair
center,
of
and
US Navy
airborne
guided missile
fighters.
destroyers sailed
Here's
to
what
the
they got
Strait of
wrong.
Hormuz
They
here
thought
in
the sea would
Islamabad
hide
over
them.
advances talks
But the sea
concluded
is
with
no
Iranians
longer the
after
only
more than
censor.
21
At
hours
0614
face-to-face
and 12
officials
seconds,
tell Fox,
the
including
cruiser's
in the
Aegis
final
console
offer, 6
classifies
red
the group
lines
as a
or
probable
read
hostile
fuel.
surface swarm.
Iran must end
At
all uranium
0614 and 19
dismantle all
seconds,
major
bridge-to-bridge
nuclear
warnings go out on
facilities,
maritime
retrieve that
channels
highly
in
enriched
English and
uranium, and I'll
Farsi.
skip down to the
Change
6th
course
one, fully
immediately.
open the Strait of
You are
Hormuz,
approaching
charging no
coalition
tolls for
naval
passage.
forces.
Now,
At
Pakistan mediated the
0614
talks, guys,
and
but
31
make no
seconds,
mistake,
no course
Pakistan
change.
is not
No
Switzerland.
reduction in
Last
speed.
year, they signed a major
Instead,
defense pact
the boats
with
spread
Saudi
wider,
Arabia, and over the
classic
weekend,
swarm
Pakistan
geometry,
deployed forces
trying to
to Saudi
complicate
Arabia.
targeting.
Why?
One
Should
breaks
Iran
left toward a
launch more
destroyer's
attacks
beam.
in Saudi Arabia, it
Two
will
angle
initiate
toward the
that
carrier's
pact.
projected
Could be a
track.
response from Pakistan.
For stay
So once
centerline,
again,
using a
countries in the
civilian
region
tanker
are
in the
upping
background as
ante
clutter.
and want to
Now
see
you're
a deal
there.
made between the United
Deep
States
inside
and Iran,
combat,
guys.
information flashing across screens faster than breath. The tactical action officer on the destroyer doesn't have the luxury of drama. He has numbers, range, bearing, closing speed, rules of engagement, intent, time to weapons release, heart pounding. This is real. General quarters sounds across the formation.
Absolutely,
Klaxons,
and Brian,
boots
the
hammering
damage to some
steel
of those oil
ladders,
and gas refineries
hatches
gonna
slam
take years
shut.
to replace, and
Flight deck
many
crews
of the
sprint
Gulf states
clear
are
as ready
using,
jets are
overland
repositioned.
oil pipelines
On
to
the
ship oil
carrier,
in Saudi
close-in
Arabia,
weapons
UAE,
crews
which
strap
was,
in. On the
last
escorts,
month.
MK-38 gunners lock optics onto bouncing wakes. On the bridge, captains order minor course adjustments to widen defensive geometry and deny easy crossing angles. An MH-60 are already airborne banks hard and drops lower, radar painting the swarm with brutal clarity. Behind it, two F divided by a -18E Super Hornets are launched not for air-to-air, but to extend the surveillance umbrella and provide instant strike options if coastal missile batteries light up. The Iranian boats are now inside 12 nautical miles and closing fast. This is where amateurs imagine one big explosion. Real defense doesn't look like that. It looks layered, disciplined, sequential, like a hunt. First comes the warning layer, long-range acoustic devices, radio calls, signal flares, visible weapon slewing. One final chance to break away. None taken. Then comes the shaping layer. Electronic warfare systems search for emissions, data links, any sign the swarm is being cued from shore. The MH-60 are relays live video. Analysts on the cruiser identify at least 4 boats carrying heavier mounts, likely intended as spearheads. Those become priority targets. Why? Because in a swarm, you don't just kill boats. You break momentum. At 0616, with the nearest contacts inside 8 nautical miles and still accelerating, the first authorization is given, disabling fire. A destroyer's 5-inch Mk-45 barks once. The sound is physical. It punches the air. A guided high-explosive round splashes just ahead of the lead cluster, throwing a geyser higher than the boats themselves. Spray blinds crew. 2 craft jink apart violently. Another salvo follows, this time walking closer. One round lands near enough to flip a fast boat sideways. Hull shattered. Engine compartment gone. First kill. 14 remain. The helicopter moves next. An MH-60R, call sign steady and cold, lines up from outside small arms range. Its crew has done this in simulators 100 times. In war games, in training windows nobody remembers. Now all of it narrows to one rectangle of ocean. Laser on. AGM-114 Hellfire away. The missile streaks low and fast, hits the second spearhead boat amidships, and turns speed into flame. The blast is compact, vicious, final. Men in the remaining boats see it. This is the moment confidence dies. 13 remain. But overconfidence has inertia. The swarm keeps coming. One boat opens fire first, tracer arcs skipping red across the water toward an outer screen ship. Another launches unguided rockets wildly, most splashing harmlessly short. That changes the legal and tactical picture instantly. Hostile intent is now hostile action. Weapons free. And the ocean erupts. The cruiser engages with rapid, deliberate fire, 5-inch rounds rounds landing in time succession. A destroyer's 25mm Mk-38 chews into a port flanking craft, tearing fiberglass and fuel lines into ribbons. The carrier itself turns slightly to unmask its escort's arcs while keeping the flight deck viable. Crew-served .50 caliber guns begin hammering at boats stupid enough to push closer. Not glamorous, not cinematic. Just heavy metal ripping through thin hulls at terrible speed. One missile, then two, then four. Hellfires from the helicopter. APKWS guided rockets from an armed Seahawk. A Super Hornet overhead is assigned overwatch on coastal launch sites, its targeting pod searching for anything on the shoreline that suggests a bigger trap. While the boats rush forward, American sensors are already asking the next question: what's behind them? At 0618, the nearest surviving boats are under 4 nautical miles.
And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube
That's all it takes for a bad decision at this range to become dead sailors and burning steel. A pair of attack craft tries the classic split. One angles toward the destroyer to force gun engagement, while the other 3 cut across the carrier group's bow, hoping to create confusion and maybe get a shot at a logistics vessel trailing behind. They never make it. The destroyer's CRAM system tracks one contact judged to be carrying a possible missile too. A supersonic burst from the launcher, and the target vanishes into a white-orange flash. Another boat takes a direct hit from the 25mm, breaks apart, and vanishes in spray. 9 remain. You're in that cockpit now, looking through the targeting pod. Tiny boats. Giant wake trails. A carrier below you, 3 football fields of American power moving through confined water. Could you make that call knowing each trigger press means human beings disappear in a second? The pilot doesn't hesitate. He can't. A strafing pass would be flashy. Instead, he stays disciplined, coordinates with the ships, and designates a shoreline radar van that just lit up for 8 seconds before going dark. File it. Save it. The counterpunch is coming. Back on the water, the swarm collapses from formation into instinct. Some boats keep charging out of momentum and fear. Others begin to scatter. That's the thing about predator tactics. Once the prey turns out to be armed with overwhelming awareness, the hunt reverses. A third hellfire punches through a boat loaded with rockets. Secondary detonations bloom. Another craft, crippled and drifting, is finished by concentrated .50 caliber fire from the destroyer's port side. One tries to hide in the wake shadow of a merchant vessel. The Hawkeye tracks it anyway, and an MH-60 our crew guides naval gunfire onto its escape route. Water column. Fireball. Debris. 6 remain. The 2 most dangerous boats are now closing on reckless vectors, less than 2 nautical miles from the outer screen. One appears to be crewed for martyrdom, engines pinned, hull slamming waves, bow pointed straight at the American line. The destroyer captain orders no flourish, no warning shots, no second guessing. The Phalanx CTWS spins to life. If you've never heard it, imagine a chainsaw fused to thunder. A stream of 20mm tungsten reaches out and saws the horizon apart. The charging boat ceases to be a boat. It becomes fragments, spray, and burning fuel spread over a widening patch of sea. 5 remain. The last coherent cluster breaks starboard, trying to run parallel to the formation, maybe to survive, maybe to salvage some kind of symbolic gunfire for propaganda. Instead, they enter intersecting fields of fire. One is hit by a 5-inch airburst that showers the deck with steel. One is raked by 25mm. One loses power and begins circling uselessly. 2 manage to turn back east, fleeing toward Iranian waters with helicopters shadowing them every second. Final tally at 0621, 15 launched. 10 destroyed. 3 disabled and dead in the water. 2 fleeing, tracked continuously. 0 American ships hit. 0 strategic effect. Total tactical failure. But the story does not end at the waterline. Because carrier strike groups do not think in moments. They think in systems. The question aboard the flagship is no longer whether the swarm failed. It is whether this was the front edge of a broader attack package. Were coastal missile batteries preparing to fire? Were drones already airborne? Was this meant to pin sensors low while something bigger came over the horizon? At 0623, National Command authorities are notified through secure channels. U.S. Central Command receives the contact assessment, imagery, emissions data, and the brief shoreline radar spike log during the engagement. The recommendation from theater commanders is immediate. Conduct a limited but overwhelming counterstrike on the specific nodes that enabled the attack. Not cities. Not symbolic targets. Capability. Launch points. Command and control. The machinery of repetition. This is how modern deterrence actually speaks. At 0627, authorization comes. Not a battle. Not a test. A calculated demonstration. From the carrier, for F divided by a -18E divided by F Super Hornets launch in succession, loaded with precision-guided munitions and anti-radiation missiles. An EA-18G Growler joins them, electronic warfare package ready to blind coastal sensors and jam communications. Farther out in the Arabian Sea, a Virginia-class attack submarine that has been silent for days receives its execute message. In the Gulf of Oman, another escorting destroyer loads target coordinates into Tomahawk strike packages. Assets already in theater begin to mesh like clockwork. And now, from the enemy's view. Commanders ashore believed they still held escalation control. They believed the Americans, worried about regional spillover, would stop at self-defense on the water. That was the fatal misread. Washington may debate wars. A strike group under attack does not debate neutralizing the launcher behind the trigger. At 0631, the first electronic attack begins. The Growler floods key frequencies near Bandar Abbas and adjacent IRGCN control nodes. Radar screens fuzz. Communications stutter. Some operators think their equipment is failing. It isn't. They are being isolated. Seconds later, Tomahawks arrive. Not dozens splashed randomly across a coastline. Specific aim points. Boat pens used by the attacking unit. Fuel storage. A pierside ammunition shed. A coastal targeting radar near the approaches. A communications building linked to maritime control. One by one, precision warheads hit with the kind of violence that leaves no ambiguity. Concrete folds. Antennas topple. Secondary explosions race through stacked munitions. Boats still tied to their berths become burning outlines against shattered docks. At the same time, Super Hornets push inland just enough to service mobile threats. One HARM missile destroys a radar that flickers on too long. Two dams crater a hardened revetment believed to house additional fast attack craft. Laser-guided bombs hit a vehicle compound feeding the assault network. The submarine never surfaces. It doesn't need to. Its contribution is already rewriting the shoreline. For every one of theirs, 25 measures of American force were ready to answer. And this is the deeper lesson. Counterattack is not revenge. It is future capability denial. You are not punishing a boat crew. You are erasing the chain that armed, guided, and encouraged them to try again. By 0640, ISR feeds show the coastal strike architecture collapsing. Fires burn across two piers. At least 9 additional fast craft on shore are destroyed or rendered unusable. 3 command facilities are out of action. 1 missile support site is neutralized. Fuel stores are burning hard enough to be visible from ships at sea. Iranian maritime commanders now face the reality they never planned for. The hunt has turned, and they are the ones being tracked. Could this escalate further? Of course. That is why professionals fear confined waters. That is why doctrine matters. But in this fictional scenario, the message is received before the next mistake can be made. Coastal batteries stay silent. Aircraft remain grounded. Surviving patrol elements withdraw deeper into protected harbors. The window for a larger regional war opens for a moment, then narrows again under the weight of unmistakable overmatch. By 0656, 42 minutes after first detection, the operation is effectively over. Here's the damage assessment. 15 attacking boats entered the fight. 10 were destroyed at sea. 3 were disabled and captured or sunk later. 2 escaped initially but were rendered operationally irrelevant by follow-on strikes and tracking. Onshore, multiple boat pens, fuel points, communications nodes, and radar assets are destroyed. American casualties, minimal in this scenario, limited to a handful of minor injuries from weapons concussion and deck movement during combat maneuvers. Strategic balance, unchanged in theory, reinforced in practice. Less time than your morning commute. That's what it took. And that is the part people miss when they talk about swarms, bravado, and viral clips from speedboats in the Gulf. Small craft can be dangerous. In the wrong conditions, they can kill. But only if they reach a target that is blind, fragmented, politically frozen, or technologically outmatched. A modern U.S. carrier strike group is none of those things. Its real weapon is not just steel or missiles. It is integration. Sensor to shooter. Ship to aircraft. Warning to decision. Decision to destruction. Seamless. Relentless. Fast. The Iranian commanders in this scenario believed proximity would create hesitation. Instead, it triggered a showcase of information dominance. They thought they were charging a ship. In reality, they were entering a fully networked kill box defended by crews who train for exactly this moment. So what does this reveal about future conflicts? That courage without calculation becomes waste. That numbers without coordination become targets. And that in modern naval warfare, the side that sees first, understands first, and decides first usually wins before the enemy even realizes the fight has truly started. What does this change about your view of modern warfare? Share your take. Subscribe to join the discussion.